Hello, how are you doing? Have you gotten in yet? I'm not hearing any audio. I can see your picture though. I can see your message, yes. Let me see if it's on my end. No, I kept hearing now recording, so that happened. I'm getting audio through. Maybe it's not. No, that's 2 minus 46.8. Okay, whatever you find easiest. No, my audio is going through to you. Let me see if I did something silly. No, I didn't use Zoom. This will be most unfortunate. Good thing that you have. Okay, nope. Zoom is not muted. Is there a way to test my own audio? Testing. Okay, both of my things are working properly. Just had to eliminate that as a possibility. Anyways, no worries. All right. Not a problem, and don't worry about it. Hey, I hear things.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hold on. I'm going to mute my mic. We getting reverb now?
I don't think so. And if it is,
Okay.
it's minor.
Okay.
Hello.
Um, how you doing?
Doing good. Okay, there is a minor reverb, but I can live with it.
Hold it. I know what I'm gonna do.
All right. Well,
What about now?
testing?
Can you hear,
No, I don't think so.
can you hear my voice?
I can hear your voice.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. And then now you can see me
Yeah.
and you can hear
hmm
my voice. Sorry about that. I think it's some setting on my computer here. Um, I changed it to Realtek speakers and everything, but apparently, it's the Zoom settings that is the problem on the computers. Not sure where to go to on the computer to get the options for my computer here. But go ahead, you can roll.
Yeah, sure. If you want to try figuring it out on Zoom for me, there I can't show you this because it's Zoom itself, which is funny.
Mhm.
But there's this drop down next to where I have this mute button, and that lets me configure your microphone, or that lets you configure your microphone, that little drop down
Oh,
arrow right here.
I see what you're saying.
So
Speakers, head, microphone.
yeah, so right
Oh,
here.
I see it. I see it. I see it. Microphone,
Yeah.
light. Microphone. I think that did it.
Okay, you can try.
All right, hold on. Let me see here. Um, I think you're right. That did it. Hold on.
Hmm.
I'm going to do something.
You have to unmute yourself on the computer section first.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
All right. I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna leave from the phone.
Sounds good. All right. Well then, despite the minor technical issues, welcome and hello. Happy to
Hey,
be
how
talking
you
with you
doing?
again. So,
Okay.
uh, just my understanding is this is the introductory section to uh, HyperSkills XR103 training.
It is.
Yep,
It is.
and we'll be covering some of the basics of utilizing HyperSkill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we're going to be going through this process. To confirm, have you downloaded the HyperSkill application to your desktop?
I have. I have it over here, and once I turn it on, it comes over on my other machine over here.
Sure,
And
hit Alt Enter if that's a problem for you or anything like that.
yeah, but it fills the whole. I don't know. It won't let you scale.
Yeah, it there's a setting on your computer which has it default to maximize screen. Press Alt and
Mhm.
Enter on it to undo that default so you can do that.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, enter. Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
Absolutely right.
it there. Don't worry, it's a default setting that people have with untrusted applications on Windows that you'd have to have changed somewhere. I'm aware of it.
All right.
So yeah, so now you should be able to freely move that around and
I
have it
do.
behave as you would expect. All right. Now, please confirm for me what number you see in the lower left-hand corner here. I believe it should be 1.46.8 in your case. If it's a different number, I will switch.
1.46.b. That
That's
eight,
an
that eight,
that's an
that
8.
eight. That's 8. Okay.
No worries. Perfect. I will switch my versions because uh, I have access to things that are currently in trial. You have access to what's in production. So make sure we're on the same versions there. Perfect. Thank you so much. So, quick overview of what it is we're going to be covering. Just introductions of ourselves. This would normally just make sure that we have everything solved and everything is working properly, which we've done.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go through the account creation process if you have not done that already, and then I'll start explaining some of the basics of our menus, navigation, and everything else. Then we're going to go into creating our first simulation and explain uh, how you do that, what that creation entails, and how you're able to modify your simulations and share them if that's something you desire to do. And then we're going to
Mm-hmm.
go into the edit hierarchy, start going through things, explaining all of that, and then we'll actually begin building the simulation.
That's fine.
Now, uh, if you've gone through my videos that we've already had on YouTube, a lot of this will be covered in review, so we can go through them quickly. And if not, I'm here to cover them with you and for you to make sure that there are no questions or issues with any of our basic components.
That's fine. Yeah, I did. We'll go through a lot of the videos on YouTube, and I think the biggest thing for me is just you walk me through because you're gonna basically show me where to start. So it's where to start and where to start. Just I think a lot of them on YouTube were where they were at a point of already something happening, but it's just like the rudimentary. Where do you start and how do you roll into it? But you
Hmm.
go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly go to our YouTube channel to make sure that in case after this there is some questions on where to go. So these are the introductory training
Yep.
videos. And if you start here on the playlist, it walks you through each of these topics and components in order.
Okay.
So this is just, account creation, as you said. So it's going to just walk through that process. It's going to walk you through the homepage and everything else.
Yep.
So, yeah. While all of these do, so except for the account creation one, they do kind of assume you've done something else beforehand. This does walk you through from one video to the next, going from an empty space ultimately to where you are experiencing your simulation.
Okay. I'll let you just start from
Yeah,
scratch or whatever, and you just do your thing. Just do your thing, and I'll play along. I'll watch
no
along.
worries. So, to start with, have you already created your account?
I have created an account, and
Okay.
if you need my email address,
I do not. I just need to know that you are at this screen and are able to see something
yep,
similar.
yeah, I see exactly the same thing.
Perfect. All right. So, quickly going through what's here. There are methods of accessing simulations through pin codes, which is a way of sharing without knowing the identification of who it is and not requiring someone to have an account to access simulations. I can go over that if that's something you're interested in. Contacting an expert or contacting sales are these two buttons here. And if you ever need to log out or do anything else, it's in the upper right-hand corner here.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure about the pin code. How did the pin code was when you create something, it generates a pin code, and then you can get back in with that pin code, correct?
So let me um, example. So a pin code lets you share a large variety of simulations with people like this. So I have 3 simulations in here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I hit get code, it gives me
Ah,
this number.
okay.
Okay. So now if I were to give you that code or myself, because anyone can access it, and we were to type in those numbers, 137759, and hit
Mm-hmm.
confirm, you can see my simulation list here has
Mm-hmm.
those sims. You
Okay.
can only experience them, you can't edit them, but that is
Mm-hmm.
a different method of getting access and sharing to people, if you want to do so en masse, and if you also don't want to have the requirement of them having a HyperSkill account.
Okay. Get it.
That's,
I get it.
yeah, I'm
Because
just
that
gonna
would come in through someone's LMS. Say they pull up a learning module, and the link for
precisely.
that is go in, and I got you.
Yeah, so it's just another method. Virtual objects tab is if you have uploaded your own stuff, like in my case, I've uploaded a picture frame.
Okay, let me ask you this. That clip art that was on the front there with that saw in there. Um, say if I was doing one with the saw, what condition would that file need to be in to that now it's a miter saw? Is that what you got there in the virtual objects? That is that front picture view? Was that a miter saw? Is that what that was?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a miter saw. So what condition, what condition would that file need to be in? Say if I'm gonna do a demo on a person doing a miter saw, what condition does that file need to be in? Textured, FBX, OBJ, broken down into how many layers? What's the
Hey,
situation?
so this specifically, and what we utilized, this was done in 2 components. It had the base and it had the
Mhm.
saw top part.
Okay.
They were FBXs or OBJs. I'm not entirely positive. They were taken into Unity and they did stuff to them, more or less. We have a Unity plugin, which you can get on our website, right here, Unity VX Packager, which lets you upload stuff from Unity, apply whatever you need to, and upload it into our system,
Okay, so that's how we get it in. The Unity packager would show me what I need to do to package it and then bring it into your system.
essentially.
Okay.
And on the blade itself, we had an animation controller to have it start spinning and stop spinning.
All right. Would that be something I would need to do if I'm going to build something similar to this? Or I mean, you're not going to be prepping all my files if I was going to build something. It'd be me prepping it, correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just one way to do it. Another way to do it is have the base, the arm, and the saw separate. And within our system, you could tell it to rotate if that's what you
Oh,
wanted to do instead. Like, it's entirely
yeah.
possible to do that. It's just, it was slightly easier in our mind to make it so it was an animation on the component instead.
Yeah, I can see why. I can see why. Yeah, makes sense.
But no, you don't have to.
Well,
There's,
it makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, there's in programming, there's lots of different ways to get the same result. So, all
Okay, go ahead. No more.
right.
Go
So,
ahead.
yeah, if you've uploaded your virtual objects and you need to add specific components to it, want to add a thumbnail to this, you can do so. I don't really care about my thing though, so I didn't add one, but this is just what it will appear like to the user from your selection here. By default, it has a HyperSkill logo. But
Mm-hmm.
if you decide, I don't know, it needs to look a specific way, you can. I don't really have an icon for this, but I'm just going to quickly navigate to one. So if I were to go, all right, you are now going to look like my beaker here that we're going to be using. I can upload this, and now, while this doesn't match my picture frame, obviously, I can upload
I
whatever
don't care.
I want.
Go ahead. You're fine.
Okay. Analytics. If somebody goes through your simulations, you're able to hit this button here, and it will bring you to the dashboard where you can view the data and everything else of people that have gone through your simulations. This is not an account I use particularly often, so I only use it for training, but at the end of this, you'll be able to click this and see all the generated data of anyone who's gone through your created simulations or you yourself on your account.
Mm-hmm.
All right, which brings us, oh, and down here are some sample simulations that we have created that you're able to go through and experience. So yeah, that's just what these are. Now,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
on to actually creating our simulation, which is on this button here. So if you select this, you're going to be on this page. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to be by default in your private repository, but if you are part of an organization or anything else that are shared with like a group of people, this dropdown will be available to you, and you will see your name of your organization as well as all the collection of sims that are there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now if sims have been shared with you privately, they will show up in here. So you'll click this button, and you can see here, based off of the permissions that have been given to me, I have different access. So
Right.
this one has been shared with me. I can edit and view it. So I have two options here, but this one I can only view it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any sims that you yourself have created, you have all the actions available to you, which are edit, copy, delete, share, or view.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, moving forward, we're going to start by creating our own simulation. Oh, and I very quickly showed you how to manage a playlist. That's something that you can go into later. But
Mhm.
also, if you have a lot of simulations, you can obviously use a search function here
Mm-hmm.
to, limit what you see. All right. Now, to begin, we're going to create a new simulation. So here is the simulations page to create things. You can give it a name. In this case, we're going to do first simulation flame test is what I'm going to call it. And here you're able to select what space you would like your sim to be in.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
All right. Suppose I've gotten this space that I've done in Maya or Google SketchUp. I would have to package it in Unity. And how would I get it in? Is there a place to get it in through here?
So it would have already been uploaded, but that would be in the virtual objects section
Okay,
here.
never mind. Never mind. Keep going.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, but here you're able to filter by people, objects, and space.
Okay, that's
When
fine.
you upload it, you're just going to tag it as this is a space, this is an object, this is a person.
Okay, that's fine. Go on. Keep going. You're
Yeah.
moving. Perfect.
Simulation, test. All right. The space that we're going to be going through here, though, is going to be, I passed it, is the public classroom. Okay. So once you have that, just hit create. Now, in order to get into the edit view of our simulation, we're going to hit the edit button. But if you're curious about the other functionalities, it is like copy. If you want to make a copy of it, that'll make a copy of it what it was at the moment of creation. If you want to rename your simulation, you can hit this button over here on the left. To be deleted. Okay, so that's the new name of my simulation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get rid of it, you just hit the delete button. It'll say, are you sure you want to delete it?
Mm-hmm.
And once you do, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And if for whatever reason you accidentally do delete something that needs to be recovered, go here and contact an expert and we can recover it for you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, to begin, we're going to go into the edit function of our simulation. So right now our simulation is empty, so it's going to begin loading us into the space. Should be rather quick because there's not a whole lot in here. All right. So now that we are in our space, let's just quickly get the camera controls out of the way. I'm going to paste them into the group chat. But while you're in edit mode, you're able to use the middle mouse wheel. If you're pressing it down, you're able to pan the camera along that axis. You can hold the right click button to rotate the camera. And in the space, you'll see our little pink cube, which I'll talk about in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to move around with the WASD keys or the arrow keys. whatever
Mhm.
you're more comfortable with. And you can scroll the mouse wheel in or out to zoom in and out.
Oh,
All right,
now that was by default. Once you came into space, you could just do that by default, right?
correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Perfect. All right. Next are the asset movement tools. We will cover each of these specifically. Oh, undo doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, but all of these are just tools to move and manipulate objects within the space. We will cover each of them. You are on default the select tool, which lets you only select and deselect objects and is, useful for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next, onto this little pink cube with an arrow sticking out of it. This is the player's default spawn position. So if I were to jump into the experience mode, this is where my player would be. The arrow is where he would be looking. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In order to change that, there's this set spawn position button in the upper right-hand corner. If you click it, you can see that my pink cube is now following my mouse. If I click once, it will place it, and then I can move my mouse left or right to change his orientation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put him here by default and looking this way because this is where we're going to have our table that we're going to be working on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, next we are going to begin bringing in some assets. Where is this? All right, so I'm going to be placing some things on this wall, and I'm going to use the search function here. I'm just going to type in poster. Okay, and the posters I want is this poster for periodic table and poster for science matters. Okay, so I'm able to click and bring it in, and you can see it's kind of a little bit odd, but I'm going to place it on the wall. And this has some default attributes after it's brought in. So initially, I don't like the way that this is oriented, so I'm just going to type in here the values I'd like it to be at. So I can do 90 in Y and 90 in Z, and now my poster is here. And I'm able to adjust it on the wall or anything else by using the Y movement tool or by specifically just typing in values.
Did it?
Okay.
So when you brought it in, and you typed it and moved it around, how do you know you're on the wall? Or what could you rotate the camera around so you and it tell you on the wall, or did you know exactly what values you were to be on the wall?
So I didn't know exactly what was on the wall. When you first bring an object in, you can see it's doing its best to stay on the floor.
Uh-huh.
When I brought it to a wall, it brought it to its center point of the wall and did not
Yeah.
pass through.
Did not pass through.
And because I just know the way that posters work when they're like this, I knew that this would be the correct X value is what matters here, to where when I rotated it, eventually it would be fine.
Okay.
So I just typed in the rotation values to like that. And if I really wanted to,
Mhm.
sorry, some things are oriented properly, like this one actually is. It's just not quite the right angle for that wall, but it is the right
That's
one for
fine.
this one. So
That's
you get
fine.
the idea.
That's fine.
So yeah, when it's like this, it's doing its best. And like in this case, it is slightly inside the wall, right? I can bring it forward by typing in values or by using the move XD tool. So you're able to do a fine touch of it. And if you want to delete objects, you just go to the delete tool and you can delete it there, or you can hit the X button on the object.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I'm really just placing these posters in here so the wall's not quite as barren.
That's fine.
And to give an example or demonstration of some of the default attributes that every object will have. So first is the position. Every object's going to have a position somewhere in here, as well as a rotation, even if it is being left at the default to 0, 0, 0, scale, other things that you're just familiar with Unity. Sorry, you're a Unity developer, correct? Or work with Unity? Okay. So is visible is just whether you can see the object or not. It does not change anything when you're in edit mode, when you adjust this. But when you go into your simulation, it will not render if this is deselected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Static is the same as kinematic. It's
Yep.
just some people don't understand kinematic, and so we switch it to something that's easier for people to understand.
Well, kinematic just simply mean move or not. So,
Yeah. Is it affected by physics?
Mhm.
Okay. Snapped has to do with whether an object is attached to something else. and what that attach point is. We will not be utilizing, well, we will be utilizing that with one object in this simulation, but not these. And is grabbable is if the object can be grabbed or not. I don't want this post to be grabbed, but there will be others. And then how does it behave if it is grabbed? So basic is just when you grab it, it goes into your hand. Slider would be like for a drawer or something that needs to move along an axis. Rotator would be like a wheel that you have to turn along an axis. Dragger is something that when you grab, it needs to move along the floor, like say a cart. And grabber would be something like a trash picker upper thingy, one of those claws. And it is an object that needs to go into your hand and then be able to use to grab other objects.
Oh.
So that is just the defaults of what we have. If there is a grab interaction type that we have not thought of, please let us know. We will work to include it.
Okay, so in the sense, if it was that saw, would the saw be applied that property of being a grab, something that's grabbed or grabbing?
So in the saw's case, the base is not grabbable. The top is grabbable, but it's of the rotator type, and you want to rotate it along a pivot so it can move up and down.
All right, now I know how to think. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm asking these questions as I go. I don't want to interrupt, but it's like it helps me grasp this beginning process.
Sure.
That's the hardest part, the beginning.
Absolutely. And continuing on from that, the wood that you grab is initially of grab basic type. Once you place it in the location where it's going to be cut, we switch it from the grab basic to grab slider, so it can only move along the plane where you want to cut it.
You know what? I'm starting to see something now. So these would be properties, if you were not in this environment, these would be properties you would put in C# in Unity, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I get it, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it's just, we have extrapolated it out, so it's something that you're able to use within our flowchart here without.
I got you, man.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you. You're making this so easy. You're good?
Wonderful. All right. So these are just objects that we're doing for understanding those basic parts. And if you're following along, you can go through it as well. But if not, that's fine.
No, you're fine. I'm catching everything you're doing.
Yeah. So next, we're going to bring in our work table. And this is where we're going to be working. We're going to grab it in over here. So I'm just going to type in work table. And I got a science lab work table. So like before, you can see it's doing asbestos on the floor. So if I bring it on the elevated section over here, it'll go on. Now I'd like it to be rotated a bit. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And this is just because I'm like this. I like things that are at exact values, not at this weird nonsense. So I just adjust them. But you don't have to do that. I just can't stand not whole values. It always hurts me somewhere down the line if I don't fix it.
No problem.
But yeah. Again, this is just a table. We're going to be placing stuff on top of it. Now, as we talked about before, when you have an object like this, or I should actually grab the Bunsen burner. Okay, so I grab the Bunsen burner. Now that I put the table in here, I can bring it to the table and it will try and do its best to put it on top of the table somewhere. Okay, so I've added an object and it's now trying to put it on top of it, whereas before, it would have only gone on the floor. So this just makes your life a little bit easier for placing it when you initially bring it in. Okay. Now I'm going to rotate this 270 degrees because that's just the orientation that I want it. And I'm going to move it over to some location that I'm quite happy with, where it's kind of on the right-ish side over here and kind of in the middle of the table. So 4.25 and negative 0.6. I'm leaving the Y at the default because that is looking like it's on top of the table, whereas if I adjust that, it might be sinking into it or anything else, so I'm quite happy with that. Anyway, so with that, we've got our little Bunsen burner in place. All right. So next, we are going to bring in some of our tools. So I'm going to bring in 4 beakers. So I've got beaker number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And because I know I'm going to need this in the near future, I'm also going to bring in this clear liquid. I don't really care about where they're placed right now. I'm going to be adjusting them in a moment, but I'm just getting in all my stuff. And then next is going to be some white powder that I have here. So I just need 3 more of these. 1, 2, 3. All right. Now I will admit I am cheating a little bit here because I already figured out where I want this stuff to be. So I'm just going to give them all a value of 4. And I'm going to have all of these spaced out with a distance of 0.2 between them and the Z. So my first one is just going to be at 0.2. My next one up on the list is going to be 0.4. And then 0.6 and 0.8. Okay, so I know that they're all evenly spaced and, on the same line, so it just looks nice and clean. Okay, and for the materials that go in them, it is the same X and Z position as what it is. So this one is going at 0.8, right? And these ones are doing 4 and 0.6. And then you get the idea. It's here, 4 and 0.4. We're just putting this powder,
in the beaker. Yeah, I got you.
Okay, excellent.
Now you dialed in the numbers. I could have used the controllers and put them in.
You absolutely could have. If you preferred the way that functions, you could have, tried to put it in. The issue is that if you try to do it like this, it thinks that you're trying to put it on top of this rather than inside of it.
I get you.
So I just am shortening that process just a little bit.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. So with this, I've put in my beakers and their materials, and we're good there. Now, I need a spatula. Oh, I'm also going to bring in this white cylinder. Now, I'm using this just as a placeholder of an asset. If you had like granulated sugar or something like that that would go on your spoon is what this is going to serve the purpose of representing what's in here. You could use that instead, but in the case you don't have it, this is how you use something as a placeholder. So I just bring in this white cylinder. This is far too large for what I want to use it for, but I'm able to rescale it down to be a much more appropriate size.
While you're there, scale is what units, or it's just relative? What's the deal?
It's relative. It is percentage. So this is 100th of the size of whatever it was. The distance, though, is meters. So this is whatever, it's 4 meters in the X distance, 1.14 meters in the Y, and 0.8 meters in the Z from wherever the origin is of this space. But scale is always relative to the object. Okay. And then we need a spatula. So I'm just going to bring in a chemistry spatula, and I'm just going to set it on the table. Don't really care about where this is placed, actually. Now, I did mention that we were going to utilize that feature of snapped at some point. Let me see if I can do it right now or not. All right, so I'm able to say, hey, white cylinder, the place where you live is at the end of this spoon. There's a location on that chemistry spatula called scoop. I just know this because I helped build this asset. There is a place at the end of this spoon where that is located. It's just going to move it from wherever it is in my space to the end of that spoon. Okay, that's just what that means. Objects can have a large amount of these hitboxes, and where they are can be changed in that virtual object tab. That's where you can add and create them. They can serve a lot of, they can do a lot of things, but this is how we're going to be utilizing it in this simulation.
Right. So object, now go back. Can you click on that again? No,
sure.
I want to see that menu. I click on that. All right. So it says target object chemicals, chemistry spatula, target hitbox, scoop, chemistry spatula. All right. So the object that you're targeting for this thing to be interaction with is the scoop, which is the thing they're laying on the table. And the target hit, the target, it was like the target object is a chemistry spatula. The hit box would be around the little scoop area. That's what you're saying, right?
It might help if I brought in a cube, but what it is just you are choosing first, in terms of Unity, the parent object, and then the location that they are attaching to each other.
I got it. Keep going.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. So with that, we have these two attached to each other. Let's see. Anything else I need besides the flames? Safety glasses and medical gloves. I'm going to bring in some safety glasses.
Oh.
So I'm just going to bring them in, set them on the table. Same thing as before. I'm just going to rotate them. This is just because I'm like this. And I'm going to type in gloves. Glove. Apparently it's glove box, which is what I want to set the gloves. Now, again, this is clearly oriented to be placed on a wall, but I don't really care. So I'm just going to do 90 and 270. Sorry. And I'm just going to set it on the table. Okay. So I'm able to look at this and go, okay, that is a little bit high. So 1.11. There we go. I'm happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm able to manipulate it around anywhere on the table that I find best. I'm just going to put it right here. It's fine. All right. So with this, we have most of our objects within the space. And the last thing we're going to add are the flames. Now, these are particles, so they behave a little bit differently from our system. Let me see if I can bring it in right now, or if I need to do something a little bit special with them. There we go. So I just happen to know that this is where I got to bring these in. They have a strange offset, is why they're a little bit hard to place, but you can manipulate them by selecting them. So you're able to bring them in, and I'm going to put them on the Bunsen burner in their location. So this needs just be 4.25. Where's my flame? There it is. Okay, and then it's just figuring out what that offset is to get into place, which is negative 0.4 in my case.
Oh.
Okay,
You just wing that?
Actually, yes. So you remember when I said putting in an exact value here is very nice for me? Because it put it, the direct center of this Bunsen burner is right here at negative 0.4 or at negative 0.6. By offsetting it by 0.02, I'm at the center of this Bunsen burner.
Right.
So there's always a reason why I do this. It just makes my life a bit easier if I do it sooner rather than later. And I just knew it had to be 1.5 above it because I just like that to put it. But if I want it to be higher or lower, I can adjust it. But I'm going to keep it at 1.5 for now. All right. Now, for this simulation, we're going to need a total of 4 flames. The default, red, purple, and yellow. I don't know if we'll use all of them, but I certainly would like all of them to be present. And they're all going to be going to the same location. So I'm just going to drop them in and not really care where they end up because I'm going to be retyping in their positions eventually. And yellow, green. All right. So again, the position is just 4.25, a height of 1.5, and our location of negative 0.4. So that's just going to be the same for all of these. I'm just going to move in a little bit quickly through these. All right. And now we've got our 3 flames stacked on top of each other, which looks a little bit trippy, but it'll be fine because we're not going to see them all at once. So now we're going to start adjusting the default property. Oh, right. And the last thing, we're going to bring in a virtual person. Now, if you don't want to include him, you don't have to, but you're able to bring in people into your simulation, have them talk to you or your students, whoever's going through this, and they're able to take the role of an instructor or anything else through your system. So if you want to bring them in, that's how you do so. You adjust them the same way you do any other object. And you're able to bring them into your space. But yeah, I don't plan on doing anything with him unless we have extra time. But if we do, here he is.
Dr. Arnold Light.
Yeah. So he's Dr. Arnold, who we've had in the past, and he is the light version of him, which means he is lightweight, loads quickly, and still looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So with that, we have all of our objects in. The next thing that we got to do is start adjusting the default properties. Now, we're going to take all of our flames, and at the start of our simulation, we don't want them visible. So we're just going to find all our flames and click this is visible property and just make it false. All right. Next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab our chemistry spatula. Now this, we don't want it to be static. We want it to be able to fall on the floor if somebody drops it, kind of thing.
Right.
Okay. And we also want to make it so that we can grab the spatula. Okay, so we're just going to make it grabbable. Next, on our white cylinder, we don't want this to be visible initially because you're not going to have a sample in your scooper initially, so just not visible. And that is, quite frankly, all the default attributes we have to mess with initially.
Oh.
Are there any questions?
No, it makes sense.
All right. So, next, we're going to move on to the scenario flow tab for the creation of our behaviors. This is the brains of your simulation of what it is going to follow. It's just a flow chart. In total, if I manage to create all of this, or we manage to create all of this together, this will be a total of 14 of these little action nodes that we will have created. But you can easily make it less. So we'll start with one branch first and see where we go, or where we get from there. But yeah, so to start, I'm going to create a state by hitting this button here, or I can right click anywhere on this empty space and click to create another one. By default, it's just going to create a name as well as append the number to it of how many there are, but you're able to rename these to call them whatever you like. And what that does is it changes the name of the state as well as gives it a name here, which you can use as a dropdown. Now, what is important about this here is if I had a simulation set up like this for whatever reason, I'm going to be deleting this in a moment, so you don't need to copy this. I just want to use it as an example. Oop, misclicked. Okay.
Oh, hold it.
Yep.
So, introductory, you put a node between there, state 1, state 2, right? What's the reasoning for putting the nodes between it?
I was doing this to show you how your start state matters. So currently I'm starting in introduction. That is my entry state. Okay. Based on this setup, I can go from introduction to state 2, but I have no possible method in this current setup of ever reaching example 1. It is unreachable.
Okay.
If I switch this to start at example 1, I am now going to start in example 1 and execute what's in here, reach state 2, but I can never reach introduction.
All right, go ahead.
And if I start at state 2, I am here. I have no way of getting back to introduction in example 1.
All right, go ahead.
So you're able to just change where the start of your simulation is with this entry state set up here. That was all I was demonstrating.
All right.
Yeah, and I can delete that to move forward. So if that is what you would like to do, you absolutely can. But yeah. Oh, and also it is entirely possible to have 2 different methods of reaching the same thing if you wanted to. So this one, you could get there by using something, or you could get there by saying, I need help, whatever you want to do. Okay. So that's just heads up how that works. And you're able to make as many branches and methods and transitions as you'd like with an object. Try to be logical about them to where they don't overlap. Otherwise, it will be a somewhat random on which one you end up with. if they have the same trigger condition. But yeah, that shouldn't be something that happens too often. So to start with, we are going to go here, clicking on introduction, and we're going to be in the entry actions. And we're going to click this drop down here to create our messages to the players. Now, there's a lot of these that you can use. It'll take me a lot of time if I go through each of them, but I do in a YouTube video that is on our website, go through what each of these are used for. I will specifically be talking about the ones, though, that we'll be using most commonly. But all of these do have functions, whether it's related to a virtual person, playing an audio sound effect, giving a quiz, or adjusting the virtual objects themselves. If you have any questions about any of these,
you said, did you say something about a quiz?
Yes. So there's a quiz action here. If you wanted to create a multiple choice quiz or a single choice quiz, you're able to create a header. This is a quiz. What do you think about that?
Wow. That's cool.
You are smart. I don't know.
All right, never mind. I see it.
And you're able to mark things as correct since it's multiple choice. They can all be correct. You know, one could be correct, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things you could do.
All right, go ahead.
But yes, the quiz.
Go ahead. Keep going. You're moving along.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things you can do here. Unless you have any specific questions about any of these, I don't plan on talking about them. So yeah, we're on to display message. This is your primary method of getting information to users. You're able to include an introduction. Otherwise, by default, it'll just say a notification. And this is, where you're able to type in whatever message you want. In this case, I'm just going to say, hey, welcome.
Virtual chemistry.
Yeah, doing a virtual chemistry lab. There's a button that shows up to dismiss this. You can type in the text. So like dismiss to continue is when I tend to put an awful lot. You can have it anchored, which is if you're in VR, going to attach it to a controller. And desktop, it's going to put it front and center, and you can't move on until you dismiss it. You can have it be somewhere in spatial coordinates, so you can put it against, I don't know, this wall here if you wanted to where that's where it's going to show up, or somewhere else in your environment, whatever you would like.
All right, so that display message, introduction and display message, it's just going to be a field with that in there, right? Just something that displays out.
Give me 5 seconds and I'll just quickly show you.
Go ahead, you're fine.
Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly jump into my experience mode here. We haven't set anything up yet besides putting in our object and that display message, so not going to be a whole lot, but hit start, and you can see it says welcome, the message we typed in, and I can dismiss it to continue. Okay, and that's all we set up. Okay, now I'm going to quickly just walk around. You can see here we have our stuff. The only thing I can really interact with is the spoon, which I said I could grab. And desktop, when I grab it, it just goes up here and to the right. You can adjust that based off of grab offset if you really wanted to, but this is going to be fine for us for now.
Okay. Where is the spatula at? Oh, you dropped it, didn't you?
So it's currently, I dropped it right there. If I want to grab it, I can left click it, and it's kind of hard to see based off of that, but it's right there.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I see it now.
Yeah. Sorry. Any object you grab by default goes there. If you want to change that, you can adjust it based off of a grab property, but in VR, it's just going to go to whatever controller you grab it with.
Right. I see.
All right. That is really all that we did so far. Yeah. So back to this. So before we begin, wear gloves and safety glasses. Okay. Now we're going to use the highlight action to show the user what it is we'd like them to interact with. So if I go through here, highlight, and hit create, I'm going to create 2 of these. And I'm going to find my safety glasses, and I'm going to say to highlight. And we're going to find our medical glove box, and we're going to hit highlight. Okay. So what this is just going to do is going to inform the user, hey, here is the safety gloves and the safety glasses. We're going to highlight each of them, and we're going to move forward from there.
I like they'll be blinking with a glow around them.
It'll
Right?
have, yeah, it'll have a blue little glow around it where it didn't before. So just one more time going into the experience so you can just see what that looks like.
No,
All right. No, you're right. So that's just what it's going to do. And we're going to move forward from there. Now, I'm going to create a branch here to where the user can do one of two things. And the first one is going to be use gloves first and use glasses first. Okay. There is no difference. We're going to have them use both, but I'm just going to make a marker of which one they used when. So in this one, where they used the glove first, I'm going to find my highlight action again. And they used the gloves in this case. So I'm going to find my medical gloves. And I'm going to have do highlight be turned off. So this is, if it was highlighted before, it will no longer be highlighted. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to this exit action here, just because it makes my life easier.
mm-hmm.
I'm going to do the same thing. And this time I'm going to find my glasses, and I'm going to just leave it the same where it's going to be do highlight is false. Now, there are actions that occur when you enter. They're going to be in green, and they're going to be actions that happen when you exit. They happen in red. I'm just using this to demonstrate that functionality. So this will happen when you get into this spot. This will happen when you leave. Okay. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a feedback log. So this is if you were to have users make an actually important decision that you want to give them feedback for at the end of the simulation, not during like you would with the display message, you could add a feedback log, which would show up with the feedback panel at the end of our simulation. So I'm just going to type in used the gloves first. Okay. So now I can either do the inverse of that here and just repeat that process, or I can right click on my state here, copy it, and just rename this, use glasses first. Okay. And now I just need to change this from or I just need to change this around and use glasses first. And unhighlight the gloves. Whatever you find easier. Then I'm able to change the destination state from here to where this is now was connected. I don't need this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And both of them are going to reconnect to this here. Okay. By the way, I may have forgotten to mention it. You're able to manipulate this by clicking with the middle mouse wheel in order to move around, or you can switch to this tool to left click to move, whatever you find easier.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. All right. So next, we're going to turn on the Bunsen burner. Okay. So we're going to go down here. We're going to find our display message. We're going to tell the user to use the Bunsen burner to light up the burner. Nope. Make sure that you are on your entry actions, not exit when you're doing that. Otherwise, they won't get the message. And I moved a little bit quickly. I forgot to mention one other thing. I mentioned your placement for anchoring or in space, but if you want it to be spoken to your user or displayed and spoken, you can select the voice, or you can upload your own audio if you have it. And it will
you put music in this environment?
Yes.
To play in the background?
Yes. So if you have uploaded your audio, let's see, where is my play audio? Right here.
Oh, this is cool.
So if you've uploaded your own audio, I haven't clearly, but if you have, you're able to play sound effects or anything else. In your case, you'd want it to be global. or you could have it tethered to a virtual object, so it would be spatial, essentially. And based on the volume you want it at, you would adjust this, and you can preview what it sounds like and wait until it's finished or do something else. There's lots of things you can do with this. And in fact, I do want to be putting this bell chime here, but if this was actually a song, let me see. Do I have music in here? For some reason, I know I do. I just don't know if that's something I uploaded personally, which, Indian classical music. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could have this start playing in the introduction. And honestly, I'd put this in something called the rules tab instead, which are things that occur outside of this flow. So that way, every time it ends, it would start again.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, yeah, just a bell chime is fine. So yes, you're able to play music. We do not check if that music is copyrighted or anything else, so that's on you.
That's fine.
But yes. All right. So with this, we've told them to turn on the Bunsen burner to light it up. You're able to choose a voice, have it be spoken to them if you want. And yeah, I'm going to, this is if you want it to be given by the system. Now, we've included a virtual person into our space. If you want him to speak the actions rather than have it be given by the system on high, you would use the speak action. So you do the same thing, and it's the same setup as before. So, just put in your message. You select who is the person speaking, how you want that audio to go through, whether it's, again, text to speech or uploaded audio, and then you select which voice you want it to be. I'm going to go with Justin. I'm going to go with no animation, but if you wanted him to take a specific pose, you could. And then you just hit this listen button here to hear the preview of it. Which in my case, I chose Justin, and our Dr. Arnold Light is the one who's going to be moving along here.
I mean, you can type that in there and Dr. Arnold will say that?
Yeah, because we've selected him as the person here.
It's got text to speech?
Yes, text to speech. If you upload your own audio, it will use this as the closed captioning, but it will play whatever audio file I myself have uploaded. So I could record myself saying this, use the Bunsen burner to light the burner, and I could play that through if I did not like any of these text-to-speech generated voices.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to get rid of this display message in this case because I don't need it. Okay. All right. So next thing we're going to do. Oh, right. And we kind of already did it. Whatever. By default, sorry, I'm going to change one thing that we did. We made the spatula grabbable. I'm going to make it not grabbable because I don't want them messing around with things until they get to this point. It'll just stop them from being distracted. So we had them use the Bunsen burner to light up the burner. We're going to use our exit actions one more time. We're going to go to set attribute, in this case, for this exit action. We're going to find our burner flame default. Okay, burner flame default. We're going to go through its properties. These are the default properties that exist on every object. We haven't adjusted them. So it's just XYZ, rotation XYZ, what's it called? The one that we care about, though, is visibility, because we want it to be visible now after they've turned on the burner. Okay, so that's all that's going to do. All right. Next, we're going to go over here. We're going to create a transition. And this time we're going to tell them to grab the spatula. Grab the spatula. Okay. Same as before. We're going to find our Dr. Arnold person. We're going to give him the same voice we did last time, which I believe I did Justin, not Joey. My bad. Going to do this. We're going to tell the user, hey, grab the spatula. Grab the spatula. So you can gather samples. Okay. And now this is where we're going to make it so that you can grab the spatula. Oop, not trigger target, virtual object. So if I look for my chemistry spatula, I go here and I go down to the bottom, there's grabbable. So this is whether the object is able to be grabbed or not. We're going to just make that true. Okay. And then we're going to add a transition. Oh, I really need to be careful about how I click sometimes. All right. Next, this is going to be the gather sample message. So I'm going to do one more speak action. We're going to tell them, collide the spatula with the sample you want to test. Dr. Arnold, text to speech, voice of Justin, no animation. And there we go. All right, and the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to do a set attribute. We're going to find our white cylinder. And we're going to make it visible after you've completed this, because what they're going to be doing is they're going to gather a sample. We're using this white cylinder to be a placeholder for our sample that they have gathered, and it's going to be on their spoon. And so now we want them to be able to see it. All right. So all of this has been the creation of our states, but technically we haven't defined how to transition. So what this would do is it would just move through this very quickly based on this, because we haven't defined how you move forward. We're going to do that now. So if you, sure, no worries.
All right, go ahead.
No worries. So in order to define how you move forward, all these are currently blank, but if you click them, you'll see this menu instead. So it's saying you're on a transition. And whereas before you had the actions you could add here, now you have the triggers or the conditions. So triggers are actions taken by the user to do something, such as colliding an object together, grabbing it, getting within a certain proximity. The one we're going to be doing, though, for right now is use. Okay. So in this case, when you use an object, and it's going to move forward with what's in there by default as the first entry, it will let you move forward. So in this current setup, if we're in introduction and we use our poster science matters, it'll move us to use gloves first. Now, that's not quite right. So I can hit this drop down here, which will give us all the objects to select from, or I can use this as a typing field and just type in glove. And it's going to limit it to this. So now it will tell me when I use the gloves, I will move into use gloves first. And I'm going to go here, do the same thing, but this time for the glasses. Okay.
Use gloves, use gloves.
Yep, so use gloves, use glasses. Okay. Now, from use gloves to turn on Bunsen burner, I'm going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to have them use glasses, and we're going to have them use gloves. Oh,
Use glasses and gloves to turn on Bunsen burner.
Yep.
Mhm.
Now, we're turning on the Bunsen burner. We're telling them, hey, use the Bunsen burner to light the burner. In order to move forward, they're going to use the Bunsen burner. Okay. Just a bunch of use actions right now. And for grabbing the spatula, we're going to go here. We're going to use the grab action, and we're going to see when they grab the spatula. Chemistry spatula. There we go. Now, if, just like your state nodes, you want to make this a more useful naming convention to it, you can rename this up here. So use medical gloves. I tend to do things like this. So now it tells me specifically what object I am using. if you wanted to.
Hmm.
Sometimes it'll be useful to you, sometimes it won't be, but this is just, essentially commenting your code. But yeah.
Hmm.
So with this,
Now, let me ask you this: the code at the present time, this is the flow chart of what everything. I mean, the nodes of flow chart of what everything's doing. But has the code started interacting with the objects yet, or that's the next step we have to do based on this right here?
the interactions are defined based on what is contained within here.
Okay.
So we've already written, when I use an object, when I use this medical gloves, this is what happens.
The highlight as I get it. I get it. I get it. That is so cool.
Yeah. So we've already defined what happens. We didn't know how we got there before. This is how you get there. This is the result.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So here we're telling them, you're going to turn on the Bunsen burner. When they use the Bunsen burner, the flame turns on. That's the setup.
Wow. Wow. But if you played this now, would that happen?
Absolutely. So I'm going to hit the save and play simulation button in the upper right-hand corner. And we're going to go in. Okay, so I get this message. I'm going to hide some things that I don't need. So it told me to use these things. They're highlighted. I can click on either. So I left click on the glasses.
Put them on. Put them on Arnold. Oh.
Okay.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Okay. So I've been told to use the Bunsen burner to light up the burner.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I see what you're saying. But you had to click on those two items first in order to do that. You had to click on the glasses and the gloves to be able to light the Bunsen burner.
Precisely. It's procedural.
Right.
And
Now,
if you don't want it to be, you can author it in a different manner to where you could turn on the Bunsen burner whenever. That's fine. This is just how we're currently doing as a process.
Now let me ask you this. Yeah, assets. Go back to can you go back to him? Can you go back to him?
Yeah.
All right. Is it possible to get him, Arnold, to put the glasses on and put gloves on, and then him click on the Bunsen burner? Is it possible to put us and Arnold to do that? Put them on. Is it possible to do that? Is it possible to do that?
Yes. The gloves are harder. I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
Or I would recommend doing that in a very specific way.
Mhm.
Glasses are not a problem. So much in the same way, I'm able to attach. Sorry, gloves are hard because the fingers move.
Right. Right. Stop
But
right there.
glasses
Right,
are much easier. So
right.
in much the same way, I'm able to attach, my little white sample to the end of my spoon. I'd be able to attach the glasses to the frame to his head.
Right. That's all I'm saying. All right. And the gloves, couldn't we trick it to like putting it on where we slide it near the hand and then it jumps to where the gloves are on a hand already
Yes,
moved?
but then if his fingers move, you haven't told the gloves to move with them.
Ah.
That's an entirely different, that's something called rigging that you'd have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What you could do instead, and what we have done, is we've uploaded Dr. Arnold. He has gloves, but we're hiding them with an animation so that I didn't have to do that rigging process.
Okay. I get what you're saying. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. Lots of ways. The one I just described is definitely the easiest.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know.
Right. One other thing
Go ahead.
that I did forget. So we use the glasses. They shouldn't be on the table anymore. We should be wearing them. So we're going to go to this set attribute here. And we're going to find our glasses. And we're going to make them not visible, because we should be wearing them now. So now when I use my safety glasses here, they're no longer on the table because they're on my head. Is kind of the next step. And we're gonna do the same thing for this one. It's just that it's when you exit. Oh, I think I did that in the inverse. Highlight blue safety glasses. Okay. I partially did that in the inverse. That explains my confusion. Use gloves first, down in here, and unhighlight the safety glasses. Okay. Sorry. I got confused because I did not quite set something up properly. But there we go. So now the glasses will disappear after I use them, is kind of the point. All right. There we go. So with this, we have it going forward as far as gathering the samples. And now we're going to start working with the actual samples themselves and colliding with the Bunsen burner to change the color of the flames based on what we set up before. All right. Now carefully place your spatula. Okay, so we are here. So we currently have 3 different flames. So if I were to set this up like that, it would look like this. Okay, so it's eventually going to look something like this. But because I know what I'm doing more or less, I'm going to be making copies of these. I'm just letting you know what the framework is going to be eventually. So from here, we're going to create a display message. Or speak, sorry. Oh, right. I'm sorry. There was one other thing I saw with Dr. Arnold that was kind of creeping me out. He wasn't looking at us. I'd like him to be. That way he follows me as I move around the room and it doesn't look like he's just doing a 1,000-yard stare into the distance. So by going to our first action of introduction, I'm going to add this look at function and scroll down. And the looker type is always a virtual person. Dr. Arnold's the person looking, and we want him to look at the player. You could have him look at a virtual object, like say the poster in their background, and he'll follow that. So if the poster moves, that's what he'll be looking at. Or you can have him look at another person. In this case, we wanted to look at the player. Okay. And if you want his name in the closed captioning to be something different, you can click on Dr. Arnold here. And in this name field, you can type it in. So now it'll just say Arnold instead of the name of the asset of Dr. Arnold Light. Okay. Sorry. That was something that was bothering me a little bit that I kind of forgot about. So back to this. We are going to have this message of now telling them to now carefully place your spatula with the sample into the flame. The color of the flame will change depending on the sample on the spatula. All of this is the same. No animation. Add transition. And I'm going to just call this gather strontium. Okay, because that is the sample that we will be gathering with this one. Now, the same way we did before, this is just going to be a collide or new trigger, collide, when our spatula collides with our beaker, number 1, or sorry, that should actually be number 2 in this case, because number 1 contains our liquid, I think. Okay, so yeah. So when it collides with this beaker, we're going to be gathering the strontium. Then we're going to have one more state over here, which is telling them to place it inside the flame. We're going to do another collide event, but this time it's going to be the spatula with the Bunsen burner. Now, to be fair, the order of this doesn't matter. It's just these 2 objects colliding together. You can do Bunsen burner first, then cap, then spatula, or spatula, then Bunsen burner. That's immaterial. Okay. Now for here, there's a lot of things that have to happen. So first, we're going to give them the explanation of what is happening. And there are two ways to do this that will have slightly different effects, which I have not explained yet, so I'd like to take the time to do so now. This little check mark of waiting till he is finished speaking affects what happens afterwards. So in this current setup, to where I am saying you're going to wait until you are finished speaking before you move forward, means that this red flame will not be visible until after he finishes this entire explanation. I don't want that. I would like him to move forward while this is happening. Okay, so I'm going to have the fires be appearing and disappearing based off of this, rather than him giving a full explanation before the behavior occurs. But there are definitely going to be times where you're going to want students or anyone else to listen to all of an explanation.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, before something happens. But this just lets you layer it, essentially. Okay. Now, in fact, what I could do is I could put this after this. So now the flame will be red and the orange, or the default flame, will disappear. He's going to give his explanation of why it's turning red. And then afterwards, I can have it go back to what it was before. Okay, so this is a perfectly fine method of doing that. Visibility true, and the red one now needs to go away. Okay, so this works if you wanted to do it that way. Or you could have him talking the entire time, giving this explanation at the top. Just get rid of that wait until he's finished speaking, and add just a pure wait action. So this is how much time you give for the action to take place.
All right, so you're moving those boxes around in a stacking order, correct?
Yes, it goes from top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
Okay, you're able to move them here if you want to, as well.
Okay.
Or you can move them by hitting this little button. And once you do that, you're in this view.
That's what you're saying.
So, yeah. What I find best to match my needs is to have him talking here and this, so it matches the exact time I want it to be, but otherwise, you can play with it. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, right. And you need to do one other thing, which I almost forgot about. Our sample is going to be consumed from this, so we have to hide our little white cylinder. So our white cylinder, which was visible, is now not visible. Oh, I said grabbed. There we go. Burn sample. Okay.
Wow.
So that will take care of all of that. Next, we need it to go over here, which is clean spatula. So let's see. In order to get here, they've collided it with the Bunsen burner. Here we've given them their explanation of what it is that they're doing. This is going to take a certain amount of time. And I, quite frankly, don't care. I want them to go in here by default after all of this happens. I'm using this mostly as a separator because we're going to be entering this multiple times from multiple different pathways. So I'm okay with this being blank. Yep. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this just like this. And now I'm going to give them the message of that they need to clean their spatula. So this is my message. And we can just have Dr. On.
Did you just paste that in there?
Yeah, I'm just pasting what I'm typing in here. So if you just want to copy it, that's easier. Otherwise, not a big deal. Yeah, before gathering another sample, it's important to clean your spatula with hydrogen chloride. Do so now. And again, we're going to highlight our hydrogen chloride, HCl, which is our clear liquid. And when we leave, we want to unhighlight it. Clear liquid. All right. That's pretty much it. So with that, we need to go back to where having them gather our sample. And we've created a small little loop here. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to just move this kind of out of the way. And for everything else, we're going to kind of just copy these, because it has a lot of the same behaviors we want. It's just that rather than strontium, we want it to be gathering a different material. So I'm just going to copy and paste these. So I'm going to say burn sample 1, burn sample 2, and burn sample 3. Yep. Okay. And quickly going through this, this one is going to be gather copper. And this one is going to be gather potassium.
So they could go down either path.
Correct.
Right. They can go down either path. Add transition if they
They're gonna-
choose each in those glasses that they're gonna hold up there. They're gonna burn either copper, either
Potassium or
strontium,
strontium.
and it's gonna give a different flame depending on what they put in there.
Precisely.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. So this was with label 2. This is going to be with label 3. Chemistry spatula. Label 2, label 3. Label 4 and spatula. This is going to be the same thing of spatula and Bunsen burner. Oh, not Bunsen burner and Bunsen burner. Okay. And then the only thing I really need to change is this message here and the flame. So this was flame red, copper burns green or yellow green. So find my yellow green flame, make it visible. Don't need to change any of that. Find my burner flame red again and make it yellow green, not visible. Okay. Same thing here. So potassium burns purple. Find my purple flame and make its visibilities behave appropriately. And the last thing I got to do here, because of the order in which I did this, is I need to include the message. One for copper. So here's my message about copper. So I would just go here. The halogen present in the compound reacts with copper and potassium. Yep. This is a problem with me. I tend to use the British spelling of things, and there's apparently a typo.
You're doing a great job, man.
Thank you. I just caught that, and I didn't realize it when I made my sample text. So yeah, potassium is colorless. I had a U in there because I spelled color with C-O-L-O-U-R. Anyway, and the last thing is add a transition to cleaning the sample. All right, so now all 3 of these go through here. I got my loop back to here. In order to clean the spatula, I'm going to add one more collide trigger here, which is label 1 and my spatula. Okay. So with this, we're telling them, hey, you're going to test all 3 of these. When you're done, you got to clean the spatula.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the last thing we want to do is we want to know when they're done, because otherwise they're going to be an infinite loop here of cleaning spatulas, going forward, everything else, and there is no exit or end to the simulation, which might be okay.
Mhm.
But we probably do want to know when they've tested all 3 samples and when they're done, move forward from there.
Mhm.
So in order to do that, we are going to create 3 variables. Now, you could do it with 1. It would just take you a little bit of extra time setting it up that way.
Mhm.
But 3 variables is just very straightforward. So you just have to pick an object. It doesn't matter which, but we're going to create a customizable variable on it. I'm going to put it on the spatula because that makes sense to me for this to live, because we're going to see how many samples you've taken. And I'm just going to call this taken sample 1. Yep, not that. Sorry. Let's try again. Taken sample 1 and copy and not paste. And I'm just going to make that a true false variable. Okay, and we're going to have it be default false.
Mhm.
We do the same thing. Taken sample 2 and taken sample 3. Okay. Now, you could do this as an integer. So taken sample amount and have it start at 0 and just add 1 to that every time they do this. But the reason why that might not work is because they could just take the same sample 3 times in a row and that would
Mhm.
still have them moving forward. So just having it be 3 separate variables is slightly easier. I'm
Mhm.
sure there's a way you could configure it to where it only adds it, if it hasn't been done before, but this is just a lot more straightforward.
Mhm.
All right. So now we're going to go to this gather strontium.
Oh, hold it.
Sure.
You're saying your inspector is going to test to see if it's done 1, 2, or 3. That's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And they got to do them all before they finish, right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So we're going to just go to these gather steps here. And for the first one, we're just going to find where we stored that variable. In my case, I stored it on the chemistry spatula. We're going to say when they go here, they've taken sample 1, and we're going to have it be true. So it's by default false. Now it's true. Here, we're going to find our spatula again. And this time, we're going to say rather than sample 1, they've taken sample 2. And here, for the last one, they've taken sample 3. Okay. So now, even though they could, take 500 samples of strontium, 5 of copper, and 1 of potassium, it'll know once they've done 1 of each. Okay. So we don't really care. We're going to make one more transition from here to our conclusion, which I'm just going to call conclusion over here. Conclusion. Okay. Now, I've talked to you about triggers before.
Mhm.
Last is conditions. So conditions can have an infinite amount of things. Right now, we're just going to use it to see if they've taken our 3 samples. So here it's the same deal. You type in your stuff. You find your spatula in this case. We're going to scroll down and look, our variables are here. So this must be true before they move forward, but we want multiple things to be true. So it's just going to be spatula, taking sample 2, and spatula taking sample 3. All right. So with this, they can only reach this conclusion tab when all 3 samples are taken
Tested. Mhm,
or
taken.
tested. Yeah, whatever. And there we go. And what we want in here is we're going to tell them, well done, you've completed this, and we're going to give them their feedback. So let's see, what did I type? Yeah, this concludes our simulation is all I put. Going to have Arnold speak it with the voice of Justin. And I'm going to actually wait for him to finish, and only when he is done does our feedback panel pop up. Show feedback log. And there you go.
Show feedback. Mhm.
So all that's going to have in it is how long we took to complete it, as well as whether we used our gloves first or our glasses first, because that's how we set it up. Okay, but with this, we have completed the authoring of our simulation.
Wow. Well,
And if you'd like to play it, you can go do so here.
can you go ahead and play it? Let me see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is very cool.
All right. So to start, we've got this coming as a welcome message. I'm going to just dismiss the controls because I don't need those. Okay, you can see Arnold is now looking at us. So if I walk around the room, his eyes will follow me. That's what we did with that look at function.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to use the glasses. They now disappear because I put them on.
So I see what you're saying. Once we click on the glasses, it's assumed that we have put the glasses on. That's what you're saying.
You can make it nicer too. You can put them in front of the user and have them transition towards you and then have them disappear as well. That just takes a little bit more timing and work, but you can absolutely do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I get you now. I get you. And the assumption is that when we touch the gloves, we have gloves on. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and if this is VR, there's other things you can do, which I did not go into. I'm just demonstrating this on desktop.
No, I agree.
You can change the controllers to look like hands and change the hands to look like gloved hands if you wanted to.
The problem is that nowadays, I mean, I'd have to get them to lock in the fact that there's going to be a VR headset when they do this. If not, we'd have to leave it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is delivered via desktop. That's essentially what you're saying. It's delivered via desktop.
Oh, you didn't understand that. I've authored this right here. I'm able to experience this on desktop. If I can get casting to work, I'm able to experience this on my headset. Exactly what we've just authored.
Mm-hmm.
Say, like, this is done. I can experience this on my headset. I can experience this on desktop. I can experience this on the web.
Either one. If it was on if it was on a headset, then the hands would come out, or the controllers would come out. You'd be doing the stuff with the controllers, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
So
but
right
the
here,
point, you're right, base controller. Yeah, that's what you're saying. Male palm. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's right. You just pull the headset out, and then you. I see. Okay, I get you. So this is, even though we're authoring this one time, it's set up that no matter which way we pump it out, what's being device is being pulled up, it's going to adjust itself accordingly. That's what you're saying.
Precisely.
Wow.
Yep. So just some quick clarification. Use on desktop is left click. Use on controller is this trigger. Grab on desktop is press the E key. Grab on controller is the grip button.
Yeah. This covers 90% of most training stuff. You have 90 to 95% most training stuff you got out there.
Yeah. Collide is you're holding the object and you left click on whatever it is. And in VR, take it that's in your controller and throw it into it. Like, like have them actually collide.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. Get back to what you were doing. I'm sorry.
No worries. I completely understand. I just wanted that to be clear. And desktop and web have the same controller interface.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Gonna move forward a little bit. So yeah, this time we're gonna use the gloves first, then that. Okay. We used the Bunsen burner. We didn't highlight it, which is a mistake on my part, but whatever. Okay, so we grab the spatula.
And dip it in there. Yeah.
Okay. So now it's got that white cylinder on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh. I get it.
So he's still talking, which is why it's still red. Once he's done, it will no longer be red.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He finished talking, and now it's back to that. And I've got to clean it with that.
That water? But that wasn't water, was it?
That's hydrogen chloride.
Hydrogen chloride
HCl.
acid. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, same thing. Now it's going to be green. Okay, he finished talking. It's going to go back. Got to clean it. Now, I could finish this by getting potassium. I'm not going to. I'm just going to repeat. So again, I could do this as many times as I want to get as many of these explanations. I'm free to explore as much as I feel like. Probably should have chosen the shorter copper one to repeat rather than the longer strontium.
Mhm.
But yeah, okay, clean it. And now we're going to get potassium. And now it's going to be purple.
Now the message is going to come up.
Okay, and now rather than telling us to clean it, it should move us into our final one, their simulation.
Yep.
And we get this, and we use the gloves first.
Oh, yes.
Okay, if I wanted to be a little bit smarter about this or done other things, I could have gone, how many times did you test the potassium? How many times did you test the strontium? How many times did you test that? And I could have added that in that feedback as well. Entirely possible to do all of that.
No, I get you. I get
But
you.
yeah, there you
I
go.
get you. Will I get will I get a copy of the video? Will I get
Absolutely.
this has been oh man. Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot you can do with this. This has been the introduction to it. There's so many more things you can do with it beyond what we've explained, but this I feel is a good introduction to it, and
It
you can
is.
do so much of
Again.
what you probably were trying to attempt with it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just need to get a copy of the video.
Absolutely.
And what I'll do, I think pretty much this introductory is, I mean, it pretty much tells how everything is done. I mean, to be honest with you, that's what I was looking for.
Mhm.
That I can see you explaining those in the other videos that were on YouTube, but I didn't see it go from the order in which you build stuff. You put the stuff out there, give them names, do this, then you go in and do this, and from there, the stuff is set up. That's what I was trying to make the connection that I could not make the connection from,
No
and now I
worries.
made the connection when you did all of this. So I get it now. It all makes sense to me. You know, it's just that
Wonderful.
I'd have to have, if I wanted to, I'd have to figure out a way to get music in. And I think last question. Okay, go back to the scene. To the scene. Can you go back to the scene where where we're at there with Arnold and everything? The resolution of what we see visually, um, the those lines there, what are they called? On the edges,
Oh,
um,
aliasing.
the aliasing. Why is that? Because it's showing through here, or is that just a typical resolution of what you see?
I believe that's probably because of my screen sharing. If you look on your screen, it will look however it looks.
You're right. If I look over here on that, you're right. It does look cleaned up over here. Yeah, on the other one, just because it's sharing. Okay. I think um I think this is good stuff. I really do. Other than getting music in it and
I mean,
playing music, I think, man, it's good stuff.
I'm
You know,
going to quickly
I'd
put in music if you don't mind. This is how I would do it. Play music. This is going to be a very quick thing. So it'll be a condition if my thing of play music is true. This is just so I don't accidentally have multiple tracks playing at once.
mm-hmm,
I'm going to say stop playing music.
mm-hmm,
I'm going to go to my play audio,
mm-hmm,
of which I only have one thing that actually is music here. So I'm going to just choose that.
mm-hmm.
I think it's
This is
like
really
Indian
cool.
something, Indian classical music.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't want this at full volume. So I'm going
Yeah.
to put it at 20%. And then when the music is done, meaning I've reached the end of the track, I'm going to tell it,
Mm-hmm.
all right, you can play music again. So now it's looping. There you go.
And that would be playing out there when we go back to the main scene. That would be
Mhm.
playing out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so the reason for this is, hey, when I've told you to play the music, consume this variable so you don't, keep trying it over and over again, because
Mm-hmm.
this is essentially an if statement that is happening globally. This is the music you're playing, And until it is finished playing, you can't move forward. So this is just stopped until then. And once it reaches the end of the track, we're going to tell it to play the music again, which brings us back to the top.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, that'd be it.
Well, you know, I'm good. I'm good. I may
All
have
right.
some questions I'll send you an email on, but I'm good.
Excellent. Now, not covered in here, which is covered much better in the videos online. And
Yeah.
this was intentionally chosen based off of your interests.
Yeah.
You're able to talk with our system and have it understand what it is you're saying. So if you click this to enable the microphone input, and you can change how it's understanding, whether it's GPT or something else. And depending on whether you're paying or not, you might have access to this character section or not. But essentially, you're able to utilize this voice intent system
Mm-hmm.
to where if the user says hello, as an example, this is the same thing as before. The user says something, you give a reaction. Arnold can respond, appropriately.
Wow.
So, hi there. I am Dr. Arnold. I am here to help. Okay, same thing. Voices, still Justin. And I don't need to wait, but whatever. Okay, so now if I ever said hello, and you can make a lot of these to where it's like, hey, I need help. Hey, how do I do this? And we have GPT piped into our system through this, and this is what the prompt you're writing for GPT.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Is it GPT or
GPT-4.
GPT-4.
So I don't know. So you saw me type in the high intent.
Wow.
Oh gosh. You are an expert in science. Students come to you for help sometimes. You are a kind teacher who gives explanations in 1 to 3 sentences about the topic of science. Okay. Give me a minute. I'm going to say Arnold is the one I'm talking to, and I'm going to get rid of my hello intent. That way we can use that. Goodbye to say hello. I don't need it anymore because I've now made Arnold a person through this. I would typically spend a lot more time generating this prompt.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is
fine.
just a very quick and simple example of it. Did I remember to turn the microphone on? Yes, I remembered to switch GPT. Hang on, there are some precursor steps. GT, English, GPT, person, on, always listening. Okay, sorry. I always forget to turn on the microphone or something the first time I do this, and I catch it immediately. It's just kind of funny that I always miss one step. I forgot I turned on the Indian music. Hi there, who are you?
Hello, I'm Arnold. Oh, the gestures with the hand are natural?
Yeah, so remember when I turned off those animations? If I wanted to just do a specific pose or a random one, that's what he does. That was a random one that it just selected from there. So it has like 14 different things it will randomly switch between when he's talking. I don't know. Any questions about science you want to ask him?
No. I get it, man.
Okay.
This is nice.
Thank you for your help, Arnold. So this right here has been replaced in a later version with a thinking pose, but we just needed something to let you know.
Wow.
So previously
Oh.
we just had them standing here. People were curious, what is he doing? Is it processing or anything else? Because it does take some time. So this is just we did by default. We've updated that in a later version to where he puts his hand on his chin and thinks for a bit. But yeah. to be released. So yeah, there you go. That GPT thing though is part of a paid feature because
Right.
yeah,
Right.
whatever.
Right. I get it.
Anyway, so yeah, there you go. That's the system.
Mm, Man.
All right, let's see. Yeah. So that is everything that I had to cover.
I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I just need to get the video and I'll just start pilfering through the manual. Um,
All right then.
and then I'll have to, at the end of the trial, I gotta just start paying my $99 a month. That's what it is. It $99 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to submit the request over and they'll start paying it for me. You know, because
Yeah.
I had to figure out the piece of software I'm gonna need the most. It was this one and the Adobe Suite. That's what it was for. Yeah, that's all.
Understood.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's like I can't believe it. I really can't believe what you just did.
Wonderful.
You know, I mean, I mean, it makes sense what you're doing in Unity. It makes sense. Essentially, you'd have to. It just makes it just makes it's kind of like agile. You're using kind of project management for Unity because it's all over the place of what the things you have to do. But I don't know if you've ever used Smoke or Flame or Nuke, any of those pieces of software. You're a programmer by choice, right? Is that what you are?
I'm a programmer by trade who is able to talk in front of people and give presentations about what I've built. So I
Yeah.
became a sales engineer from that, but I helped build this tool.
Yeah, you did a good job. But the thing in Nuke has the what are those things called? I can't remember the name of it. Nodes. The nodes that you put in there is in software that I use in animation and modeling and visual effects. The nodes is what make it work, and I can see in my head because of the nodes there. It helps me. It allows me to able focus more on hierarchy of what actions that have to happen, rather than keep constantly focusing on what code I need to write. And that's what makes it. That's what makes it sometimes so hard in putting the piece together. You're more focused on the code you have to write than putting the piece together visually.
Yes.
And I think that's what you did a really good job at shedding some of that weight of having to just constantly visualize code in your head and then come back to what happens, and that's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing. you know I my hats off to you. Hats
I
off to
think,
you.
yeah. What we've also found is this is a lot easier for non-programmers to digest, and they're able to create from this as well.
Well, because programmers, the problem is you see the code in your head, you see the action that it has to do, and you're able to whip all of that out. But then when it comes back up to the visual, you're like, okay, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, but you understand the actions and what the code talk to the actions have to do, like white on bread. You get that. But having to jump between both worlds, the visual and the logic to what the actions are back to the visual, that's a lot of humping you're asking somebody to do. And the vast majority of people either fall in one category or the other. They don't fall in that happy sweet spot. They just don't, you know. So I think this is a very useful tool. I really do.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'll do, I gotta submit a request to get the $99 a month paid for me, that one, and also my Adobe Suite. And I think that will be the only two tools I'll need, really, your tool and the Adobe Suite tool. I had to sit here and figure out what my workflow is going to be, but this is the tool that I need to do my stuff with.
Very glad to hear it. We're happy to assist if you need anything though. So
Oh,
please
no
reach out.
problem. No problem. Also, let me see here. How now this is delivered through an LMS as would it be something you see on a screen and then you hit a launch button, then it launches us into that, it loads the Unity player into their screen and they start doing it? How does it, how would it be seen through an LMS?
So depending on LMS is typically going to be web-based.
Mm-hmm.
Is how it's
Yes,
going to work.
web based.
yeah. So you can export it to SCORM or anything else. But I'm going to pretend that this is what you have. It's going to give you a URL. If you are just going through HyperSkill itself, it's going to go through this little process here where it's going to load it. This is going to pop up, I think, with a login screen because I'm launching it through HyperSkill rather than through an LMS, but it would skip that step if it's directly from an LMS, essentially.
It would skip this right here. It would skip this.
This loading would happen. I'll let you
loading.
know if there is a login screen or not. It may have kept me logged in from before. I will find out. So there you go. It's going to pop up here.
The same thing.
It's just going to do exactly what you just saw there.
Yeah, same thing.
The name right here will be whatever the LMS sets it to by default. You're able to configure this yourself, though, if you want. There's lots of things. Anyway, and then we're doing this on the web.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. All right, I got it. Just get me the recording for today, and I'm off to the races. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You could do a whole lot more in a shorter period of time than what you can do in just pure Unity. That's the key thing. It lets you whip together a lot of them in a shorter period of time. And even if you went back to do it in pure Unity, it's a lot easier to either do it in this all together or map it out in this all together, and you understand what you're doing even more in Unity. One of the two, you know?
Absolutely.
It's nice, man.
Thank you.
Very nice.
All right.
Thank you.
No worries. That concludes our session. I will stop this recording now. And as soon as that finishes processing,